Although it's such a special day of ordination, the message that I want to share with you is definitely within the message of the season of Lent, which we are in. What it means for us to make sacrifices in our life, to come in communion with God, to find ourselves one with God, right? And making spiritual disciplines, whether it's fasting or doing something like that, to understand the suffering that Jesus went through, and to recognize that we need God in our life. That's what Lent is all about. And the message that I want to share with all of you, it's not just about the elders, but each and every one of us in the season of Lent. And as the people of God, as leaders in the church, I wonder if we understand what it means to be people of God. Do we understand what that means? Dedicating our lives to be like Jesus every single day. And I guarantee you, those people that are coming up today to be ordained as leaders, I'm sure whether it's their knees that are shaking or in their hearts, there's some fear in them because they're like, oh my gosh, what does it mean when I get up there? And to all of us, the message is the same. It's about dedicating our lives each day so that we can be like Jesus one day at a time. Right? One day at a time. Today, I want to read a story to you about a man named Lazarus and his two sisters. Lazarus was a man who was living in Bethany. He had two sisters. You guys are probably more familiar with the sisters than possibly with Lazarus. The two sisters are Mary and Martha. Right? So Jesus is very close to Mary and Martha. Mary and Martha are two sisters who loved hosting Jesus and his disciples and other people into their home. And many times they found themselves gathering all the people, and it was during mealtime. And Martha, being the older sister, would run around. Right? Do we have some slides today? Let's see. I'll look it up. Yeah, we'll go to the next one. All right, there we go. Martha was the woman who was the older sister, and you know how a lot of times older sisters are. They're running around being busy, getting food ready, cleaning the house. And the second sister, what's the second sister usually like? Sitting around, right, watching the older sister work. And she used to love to sit at Jesus' feet, just listen. Right? That's how Mary was. And Martha would complain to Jesus, go, Jesus, why is Mary always like this? Why isn't she working around the house? So that's the backdrop of who Martha and Mary are. And then there is the brother, Lazarus. And Lazarus was also very close to Jesus. We know that. And the passage that we're going to read today is about what happens to this man. Okay, so we're going to look at John 11, verses 1 through 6. Now, a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one, here's another character story of Mary. Mary was the one who anointed the Lord with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was ill. So the sister sent a message to Jesus. Lord, he whom you love is ill. So we understand right there. Jesus and Lazarus already had a friendship relationship. Right? And Jesus loved Lazarus. But when Jesus heard it, he said, this illness does not lead to death. Rather, it is for God's glory, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. Accordingly, though Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, after having heard that Lazarus was ill, here's a little funny part. What does it say? He, Jesus, stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. He doesn't go right away. Jesus stays where he was another 2 days. And after 2 days, Jesus finally says, well, let me head on over to Bethany, where Lazarus is. Here's the thing. We're reading from the Gospel of John. And I love the Gospel of John because it's full of people's misunderstandings. There's always 2 layers or 3 layers or 4 layers of story going on in the Gospel of John. Jesus tells the disciples, this type of illness does not lead to death. The disciples think that Jesus doesn't understand what's going on with Lazarus. The disciples start saying, no, Jesus, Lazarus is really, really sick. He could really die. What's he talking about? Illness doesn't lead to death. Jesus says, no, you don't understand. Lazarus will never die. Jesus tells the disciples, Lazarus has fallen asleep, and now I need to go wake him up. The disciples think that Jesus doesn't understand. If Lazarus is just sleeping, Jesus, then why do we need to go to Bethany? He's going to wake up anyway. And Jesus says, no, you don't understand. Lazarus has just died. And even in his death, something good is going to happen. Jesus tells the disciples, you know, I'm glad I wasn't there when Lazarus died, so that you guys will believe. The disciples think Jesus doesn't understand. And they start thinking to themselves, don't blame this one on us. What do you mean Lazarus had to die so that we can believe? We don't need your help to believe. Okay? And they start getting sarcastic with Jesus. Well, why don't we all go to Bethany and we'll all die then? And Jesus tells them, no, you don't understand. I'm the one that's going to go into Judea, and I'm the one who's going to die. You know, when Jesus gets near Bethany, of course, people start hearing he's coming. And one of the first people that comes out to meet him is Martha, the oldest sister. And Martha runs out and she's crying and she's asking Jesus to do something. And she's like, Jesus, you know, I want you to do something. He's dead, but I want you to do something. And Jesus tells her, don't worry. Your brother will rise again. Right? Jesus says this to Martha. And Martha's thinking, Jesus, I know your teachings. You've been teaching in my house all the time. I know what's going to happen in heaven, but that's not what I'm talking about. I want you to have my brother right now. Jesus says, no, you don't understand. I am talking about Lazarus. I'm talking about Lazarus living right now. When Mary comes out, they're all taking turns coming out to Jesus. She's crying. The mourners, because you know when people died, mourners would come and professional criers would come and they're all crying and crying. And these people don't think that Jesus understands what's going on. They're like, Lazarus is dead. Only if you had come a little bit sooner, maybe Lazarus wouldn't have had to die. Because you could at least heal him. Now that he's dead, I don't know what you're going to do. And Jesus tells them, no, you don't understand. God is greater than just healing. The good news is that even in the midst of all of this misunderstanding, we can still experience the power of God in our life. And that's exactly what happens in this story. The disciples misunderstand. Martha doesn't understand. Mary doesn't understand. The professional criers don't understand. The village people don't understand. But Jesus doesn't stop. Jesus does not stop. Jesus continues. And he tells the people, he goes, hey, I'm here. Roll that stone door away from the tomb. And the people do it. And when the people are going to the tomb, Martha's like, oh gosh, this is going to be bad. Says, Jesus, stop. Stop him right now. I know you love Lazarus. He's our brother, and we've been telling you to do something. But Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. He kind of stinks. His body stinks. You open that door, and it's really going to stink. And Martha says, stop. Don't do it. Don't do it, Jesus. Right? But Jesus says, no, roll it away. He rolls it away, and Jesus begins to pray to God and says, God, let your power come down upon Lazarus. Let life come down upon Lazarus. Not just for Lazarus, but do you guys remember what Jesus said originally? Who was this for? So that the disciples, so that people could believe. They roll away the stone, and Jesus speaks, and he says, Lazarus, come out. Jesus didn't stop. He just keeps going in. When he says, Lazarus, come out, can you imagine all the people, what they're thinking, what they're doing? They're looking at the door of the tomb. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? They're waiting. We know what happens. Lazarus steps out. He steps